Picture this. Two identical twin sisters, 22 years old, beautiful, ambitious, inseparable since birth. They finish their evening shift at Murphy's Diner in Pike County, Kentucky. It's October 15, 1974. They wave goodbye to their coworkers, step into the cool autumn night, and vanish without a trace. For 45 years, their disappearance would haunt a small Appalachian community and challenge every detective who dared to investigate. But before we dive deep into this chilling mystery, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell, because what you're about to hear will change everything you think you know about cold cases and DNA evidence. This is the story of Sarah and Rebecca Martinez, and I promise you, the truth behind their disappearance will shock you to your core. Sarah and Rebecca Martinez were more than just twins. They were Pike County's golden daughters, born on March 8, 1952, to Miguel and Rosa Martinez, who had immigrated from Mexico seeking the American dream in the coal mining region of eastern Kentucky. The Martinez family had built a reputation for hard work and integrity in their tight-knit community. Miguel worked the dangerous underground mines while Rosa cleaned houses for the wealthier families in town. The twins were impossible to tell apart. Same dark curls, same bright smile, same determined spirit that their parents had instilled in them. They shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams of leaving Pike County for bigger cities and brighter futures. After graduating from Pike County High School as co-valedictorians, they had taken jobs at Murphy's Diner to save money for college. Their plan was simple but ambitious: work for 2 years, save every penny, then head to Louisville together to attend the University of Kentucky. Murphy's Diner was the heart of Pike County's social scene. Located on Main Street, it served as the unofficial community center where miners grabbed coffee before dawn shifts, where teenagers gathered after school, where everyone knew everyone else's business. The Martinez twins had worked there for 18 months, earning a reputation for their cheerful service and infectious laughter. Regular customers would request their section specifically, knowing the sisters would remember their usual orders and ask about their families. October 15th started like any other Tuesday. Sarah worked the morning shift while Rebecca handled the evening crowd. They had perfected this system, ensuring one sister was always fresh while the other rested. That particular day, Sarah had spent her afternoon reading college brochures in their small apartment above Rivera's grocery store. She dreamed of studying journalism, while Rebecca wanted to become a teacher. They had already started filling out application forms, their acceptance letters representing tickets to the wider world beyond Pike County's rolling hills. At 6 in the evening, Sarah arrived at Murphy's Diner for the shift change. Witnesses later recalled seeing the twins laugh together as Sarah tied her apron and Rebecca counted her tips. The evening crowd was lighter than usual. A few coal miners stopping for dinner after their shift, some high school students sharing milkshakes, Patterson nursing her usual cup of coffee while reading the local newspaper. Rebecca served her last customer at 9:45 p.m. Tommy Morrison, a regular who always ordered apple pie and black coffee, remembered her bright smile as she refilled his cup one final time. By 10 o'clock, the twins had cleaned the last table, counted the register, and locked the diner's front door. Manny Rodriguez, the cook, watched them walk toward their usual route home. They turned left on Main Street, heading toward the small bridge that crossed Tugfork Creek. That was the last confirmed sighting of Sarah and Rebecca Martinez. When the sisters failed to return home that night, their landlord, Mrs. Rivera, initially assumed they had stayed late at the diner for inventory. It wasn't until the next morning, when Murphy's Diner owner Harold Murphy called looking for his missing employees, that anyone realized something was terribly wrong. The twins had never missed a shift without calling. They had never stayed out all night without explanation. Miguel and Rosa Martinez arrived in Pike County within hours of the phone call. The strong man who had spent decades in dangerous mines broke down completely when he saw his daughter's empty apartment. Their purses sat on the kitchen table. Their college application forms remained scattered across Rebecca's bed. Sarah's journalism notebook lay open to a half-finished article about the upcoming county fair. Pike County Sheriff Bill Hendricks launched an immediate search. Volunteers combed the creek banks, searched abandoned mining structures, checked every cave and hollow within a 20-mile radius. Bloodhounds lost the twins' scent at the bridge over Tug Fork Creek, as if Sarah and Rebecca had simply vanished into thin air. The first 48 hours brought no leads, no witnesses, no evidence, no demands for ransom. The Martinez twins had simply disappeared from a street they had walked hundreds of times before, in a community where strangers were immediately noticed and everyone looked out for their neighbors. Pike County had never experienced anything like the Martinez twins' disappearance. Sheriff Bill Hendricks, a 20-year veteran of local law enforcement, found himself leading the most complex investigation in the county's history. Within 72 hours, the story had spread beyond Kentucky's borders, attracting regional media attention and putting enormous pressure on the small sheriff's department. The investigation began with the basics. Hendricks and his 3 deputies interviewed everyone who had seen the twins on October 15. They reconstructed the sisters' final day minute by minute, looking for any detail that might explain their disappearance. Tommy Morrison, the last customer to see Rebecca, underwent multiple interviews. He maintained his story consistently. Rebecca had been her usual cheerful self, showing no signs of distress or fear. Harold Murphy, the diner owner, provided access to employee records and customer information. The twins had no workplace conflicts, no problem customers, no reason anyone could identify for wanting to harm them. Their co-workers described Sarah and Rebecca as model employees who arrived on time, worked hard, and treated everyone with respect and kindness. The physical evidence was frustratingly limited. Deputies found no signs of struggle near the bridge where the twins' trail vanished. The creek banks showed no disturbed soil or unusual markings. No torn clothing, no dropped personal items, no indication of violence. It was as if the sisters had walked to the middle of the bridge and simply ceased to exist. Investigators expanded their search to include Pike County's extensive network of abandoned coal mines. The region's mining history had left hundreds of shafts, tunnels, and processing facilities scattered across the mountainous landscape. Many were unmarked, forgotten, or considered too dangerous for civilian access. Search teams with specialized equipment spent weeks exploring these underground locations, finding nothing related to the Martinez case. Sheriff Hendricks requested assistance from Kentucky State Police. Detective Lieutenant James Crawford arrived with additional resources and experience in missing persons cases. Crawford brought a systematic approach that the local department lacked, implementing grid searches, establishing command posts, and coordinating with neighboring counties to ensure the twins hadn't been taken across county lines. The investigation revealed troubling details about Pike County's transient population. The mining industry attracted seasonal workers who lived in temporary housing, often leaving without notice when jobs ended. Several men had left town in the days following the twins' disappearance, but tracking them proved nearly impossible without modern communication systems or databases. One lead seemed promising initially. Gas station attendant Randy Phillips reported seeing 2 young women who matched the twins' description, getting into a dark-colored pickup truck around 10:30 p.m. on October 15. However, Phillips later admitted he might have confused the dates, and no one else reported seeing such a vehicle in the area that night. The Martinez family endured weeks of crushing uncertainty. Miguel took leave from the mines to help with search efforts, walking miles of mountain trails and checking every abandoned structure he could find. Rosa organized prayer vigils at St. Mary's Catholic Church, where the twins had been active members since childhood. The community rallied around the family, providing meals, financial support, and volunteers for search teams. As weeks turned to months, media attention gradually faded. Regional news outlets moved on to other stories, leaving Pike County to grapple with its first unsolved disappearance in recent memory. Sheriff Hendricks continued investigating, but with limited resources and no new leads, progress stalled. The case took an unexpected turn when FBI agent Patricia Walsh arrived in Pike County 6 months after the disappearance. Walsh specialized in cases involving missing young women and brought federal resources to bear on the investigation. She established that similar disappearances had occurred in neighboring counties, though none involving twins or with such a complete absence of evidence. Agent Walsh introduced new investigative techniques. She had the twins' apartment processed for fingerprints, revealing several unidentified sets that suggested someone had been inside after their disappearance. However, the building's multiple tenants and regular visitors made it impossible to determine when these prints had been left or by whom. The FBI analysis of Murphy's Diner revealed one significant finding. Trace amounts of unusual motor oil had been found near the employee entrance, suggesting a vehicle had been parked there recently. The oil's composition didn't match any vehicle belonging to diner employees or regular customers, indicating someone unfamiliar with the location had been present around the time of the disappearance. Despite federal involvement, the case remained frustratingly cold. By October of 1975, exactly 1 year after Sarah and Rebecca vanished, active investigation had essentially ceased. The Martinez family maintained hope, but law enforcement agencies had exhausted their leads and resources. The twins' disappearance became Pike County's greatest mystery, a case that would haunt investigators and the community for decades to come. For 44 years, the Martinez twins case file gathered dust in Pike County Sheriff's Department storage. Detective Sarah Chen had seen the file countless times while researching other cold cases, but it wasn't until July of 2018 that she decided to take a fresh look at the evidence. What she discovered would finally bring answers to one of Kentucky's most enduring mysteries. Detective Chen had joined Pike County Sheriff's Department in 2010 with a master's degree in criminal justice and specialized training in cold case investigation techniques. She had successfully solved 3 previous cold cases using DNA evidence and advanced forensic methods that hadn't existed in 1974. The Martinez case represented her greatest challenge yet. Chen began by digitizing all physical evidence from the original investigation. She photographed every document, cataloged every piece of physical evidence, and created a comprehensive database that could be cross-referenced with modern investigative tools. The process revealed several pieces of evidence that had been inadequately preserved or analyzed using 1970s forensic technology. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The motor oil found near Murphy's Diner had been stored in a small evidence vial for over 4 decades. Chen submitted this sample for advanced chemical analysis, hoping to identify the specific vehicle type that had leaked the oil. The results were more significant than she had anticipated. The oil contained trace amounts of human DNA. Microscopic blood droplets had mixed with the motor oil, preserved by the petroleum's chemical properties for nearly half a century. This DNA evidence represented the first biological material ever found connected to the Martinez twins' disappearance. Chen submitted the DNA sample to the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, which had expanded dramatically since its creation in the 1990s. The system compared the unknown DNA against millions of profiles from convicted criminals, arrestees, and voluntary submissions. After 3 weeks of processing, CODIS returned a match that stunned everyone involved in the investigation. The DNA belonged to Thomas Keller, a 73-year-old man living in a nursing home in Lexington, Kentucky. Keller had been arrested for drunk driving in 2015, resulting in his DNA being entered into the system. What made the match particularly significant was Keller's history. In 1974, he had been a 29-year-old construction worker living in Pike County. Detective Chen began investigating Keller's background immediately. Employment records showed he had worked for Morrison Construction Company in 1974, the same company that had been repairing roads near Murphy's Diner during October of that year. Keller had access to company vehicles and would have been familiar with the area where the twins disappeared. The investigation revealed a disturbing pattern in Keller's life. He had been arrested multiple times for drunk driving between 1975 and 1992. Police reports showed increasing alcohol dependency and violent behavior toward women in bars and social settings. 3 different women had filed assault charges against him, though none had resulted in serious jail time. Chen arranged to interview Keller at the nursing home where he lived. Dementia had significantly impacted his mental capacity, but certain memories from decades past remained surprisingly clear. When Chen mentioned the Martinez twins on October 15, 1974, Keller became visibly agitated and began crying. During multiple interviews over several weeks, Keller's story gradually emerged. On the night of October 15, he had been drinking heavily at Riley's bar before driving his company pickup truck through downtown Pike County. Near the bridge over Tug Fork Creek, he had encountered two young women walking home from work. Keller's account was fragmented and sometimes contradictory, but the essential facts were consistent. He had been driving drunk and speeding when he struck both sisters near the bridge. Panicking about the consequences of killing two people while intoxicated, he had loaded their bodies into his truck and driven to an abandoned mine shaft in the mountains east of town. The confession was devastating but incomplete. Keller's dementia made it impossible to obtain precise details about the location where he had disposed of the twins' remains. He could remember the general area, but couldn't provide specific directions or landmarks that would help investigators find the site. Detective Chen organized search teams to explore abandoned mining sites in the region Keller had described. Using ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs, investigators began the methodical process of searching dozens of potential locations. The work was dangerous and time-consuming, as many of the old mine shafts were structurally unsound. After 6 months of searching, investigators made a discovery that would finally bring closure to the Martinez family. In a mine shaft approximately 12 miles east of Pike County, cadaver dogs detected human remains at a depth of 40 feet. Recovery efforts required specialized equipment and safety protocols due to the unstable condition of the abandoned mine. The remains of Sarah and Rebecca Martinez were finally found in March of 2019, 4 years and 5 months after their disappearance. The recovery of Sarah and Rebecca Martinez's remains marked the end of Pike County's longest-running mystery, but it also began a new chapter focused on justice, healing, and ensuring that the twins' memory would never be forgotten. The forensic examination confirmed what Detective Chen and the community had suspected since Thomas Keller's confession. Dr. Emily Rodriguez, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Kentucky, led the careful examination of the remains. Despite 4 decades in the abandoned mine shaft, enough skeletal evidence survived to confirm the twins' identities through dental records and DNA analysis. The forensic evidence supported Keller's account of a vehicular collision, with both sisters showing impact injuries consistent with being struck by a pickup truck. The legal proceedings against Thomas Keller presented unique challenges. His advanced dementia made him incompetent to stand trial for murder charges. But the Pike County District Attorney's Office worked with the Martinez family to ensure some form of official justice. A special hearing was conducted where Keller's confession was formally entered into the court record, officially closing the case and acknowledging his responsibility for the twins' deaths. Miguel and Rosa Martinez, now in their late 80s, finally received the answers they had sought for nearly half a century. Miguel had never stopped believing his daughters would be found, maintaining their bedroom exactly as it was the night they disappeared. Rosa had attended every court hearing and investigation update, determined to see justice for her children before her own death. The discovery brought profound closure to Pike County's community. Many residents had lived with the mystery for their entire adult lives, wondering what had happened to the beloved Martinez twins. Local businesses displayed memorial photos, and St. Mary's Catholic Church held a special memorial service attended by hundreds of community members. Detective Chen's investigation had broader implications beyond solving the Martinez case. Her systematic approach to cold case investigation became a model for other small law enforcement agencies. The Kentucky State Police invited her to train other detectives in advanced DNA analysis techniques and digital evidence management. The case highlighted significant improvements in forensic science since 1974. The DNA evidence that solved the case had been present at the crime scene for decades, but couldn't be detected or analyzed using the technology available when the twins first disappeared. Chen estimated that similar cases throughout Kentucky could potentially be solved using modern forensic techniques applied to old evidence. Thomas Keller died in the nursing home 6 months after his confession, never facing formal trial but having provided the answers that allowed the Martinez family to finally grieve properly. His death eliminated any possibility of additional legal proceedings, but the confession had served its primary purpose of revealing the truth about what happened on that October night in 1974. The Martinez twins were laid to rest in St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery in a ceremony attended by over 500 people. Their headstone bears an inscription chosen by their parents, Sarah and Rebecca Martinez, beloved daughters, together always. The service included readings in both English and Spanish, honoring the cultural heritage that had been so important to the family. Pike County established the Martinez Twins Memorial Scholarship at the local high school, providing annual funding for graduating seniors planning to attend college. The scholarship specifically supports first-generation college students from immigrant families, reflecting the twins' own dreams of higher education and their parents' journey to America. Detective Chen received recognition for her work on the case from both the Kentucky Sheriff's Association and the FBI's Cold Case Initiative. Her investigation demonstrated the importance of applying modern forensic techniques to decades-old evidence and established new protocols for cold case investigations in rural law enforcement agencies. The case also led to improvements in Pike County's evidence storage and preservation procedures. The fact that crucial DNA evidence had survived for 44 years was partly due to luck, but Chen implemented systematic procedures to ensure future evidence would be properly maintained for potential future analysis. 5 years after solving the case, Detective Chen reflected on its impact during an interview with Kentucky Monthly magazine. She emphasized that the Martinez twins case represented more than just successful detective work. It demonstrated the importance of never giving up on victims and their families, regardless of how much time has passed or how cold a case might seem. The Martinez family's ordeal inspired changes in how missing persons cases are handled in Kentucky. New protocols require more thorough evidence collection and mandate regular case reviews using evolving forensic technologies. These changes ensure that future families won't endure the decades of uncertainty that Miguel and Rosa Martinez experienced. Today, the Murphy's Diner building houses a small museum dedicated to Pike County history, with a permanent display honoring Sarah and Rebecca Martinez and their families' contributions to the community.